Hi everyone, my name is Sean, and today I want to discuss the gendering of bodies. Now, by gendering of bodies, I mean how each person is given an expectation to follow based upon the gender that they were assigned. And we kind of see this all over the place. We see what is encouraged through media, through just our own uh, nurturing through life, how our parents and how schools and how our peers have taught us to perform our gender. And I kind of want to describe what this is. So, I am a male, and I am expected to do male-like things. I'm expected to be masculine. I'm expected to be powerful, able to protect myself, or at least think that I can. I'm expected to like boyish things like video games or basketball uh, or fighting, things that are typically masculine, whereas women are supposed to uh, perform in ways that are feminine. They're supposed to uh, be nurturing, be kind and compassionate, and do activities that support these, like while they're children, play with Barbies. While they're adults, they're supposed to obsess about their beauty. These are gender normative behaviors, and they're behaviors that our society expects of the two genders. Now, these expectations aren't necessarily bad. There are benefits to falling within these norms for people. Some people fall into them very easily, and they come naturally. Or they're easy for people to follow in some cases. Whereas for other people, it's not as easy, and it's something that does actually do more harm than good when they are told to perform in a certain way and their own desires oppose or subvert that cultural expectation. Such as this is the case with transgendered people, or transgender people, excuse me. Uh, Transgender people, they don't perform their sex in a typical, or they don't perform their gender in a typical way. They were assigned one gender at birth, and they feel that they are not this particular gender, so they desire to switch to the opposite gender through both performative means and through physical changes. And these people are seen as performing gender incorrectly. These gendered bodies are seen as transgressors to the norms, and they're these transgressors are seen as typically they have some kind of illness, something mentally incorrect with them. Like they were raped when they were kids. They didn't have a proper structure in their development, so they now desire these specific uh, abnormalities. And this is something that causes problems for those people and makes them in they're not equal to the rest of those of us that follow perfectly within those gendered norms. And it also applies to each one of us. Some of us don't fall very neatly into our gendered norms. I, for instance, am homosexual, which is not a typically male thing to do. Uh, Men are supposed to be sexually attracted to women, and in my case, I am not, and I am seen as some people, not as much now, but it was once seen that in the case of Freud, he stated that there was something that was not complete, a stage of development that was incomplete, and I was suffering from this incompleteness or a mental issue from developmental errors. And this is something that causes inequality even that I face, even if I can't identify them as easily as someone who is transgender. It is something that we have to recognize because not everyone has these equal opportunities, and we judge people based upon how well they fit in within our gendered norms. And who's to say that our understanding of how gender needs to be performed is even ideal? The norms of our own genders are actually, they actually have several issues, uh, largely including those for men. Men are, of course, as I stated earlier, encouraged to be masculine and powerful, which is interpreted as violence. Men are supposed to be violent and able to hold themselves in a fight. And this has become a huge problem in our society right now, where we have a lot of a lot of instances where men are committing violent acts as a result of the expectations of the norms of their gender. Now, this also sometimes comes into play and intersects with the norms of race. Now, in this, I'm talking about the encouragement of the African American male community to be transgressors, to be gangsters, to have their own uh, to have their own gangs and to hold up in a fight and to participate in their own community in this violent way. And it isn't just violence in this way we see with school shootings that our society has actually in part encouraged violent behavior. It doesn't present the idea that transgender people or anyone who transgresses the gender norms are actually very similar to the rest of us, that they have the same morality that we do, that they are just as influenced by society, they just interpret it in a different way. And this bothers us because it doesn't fall into all of our norms, and our interpretation of their actions is very impactful, and we kind of have to then question what our understanding is of gender and how rigid our interpretation of it is, and how it impacts other people around us. We see that people who transpose this norm are treated unfairly in the workplace. They are given less opportunity to get jobs or to be even presented in media. We don't see people who don't fit the norms in media very often. These gender norms promote the inequality that exists in our society right now. Now, we see with women in particular, a little bit more than half of our entire society is still culturally seen as lesser than the patriarchal male in our society. And I mean, it's easy to see that there's the wage gap that we can see men making $1 for every 77 cents a woman makes, and this is an actual issue. While people believe that yes, there may not be direct inequalities in the pay of men and women doing the same exact job, there are issues in the value of typically male and typically female occupations, such as housekeeping, such as nursing, fields that are typically male, like construction working or plumbing. The two are work is paid differently depending on if it's typically male or typically female. And this is something that we have to understand is being gendered, so that we can expand what it is to be a gendered male or a gendered female, and potentially expand them to the point where anyone can fall under whichever gender they desire to fall into. The real takeaway that I want everyone to have from this is that we shouldn't be so rigid in our norms, because not everyone is the same. Everyone has something that is different and unique about them. And that means that not everyone can perform things in the same exact way. And we have to be open to different interpretations of how people want to behave, if we hope for both ourselves and for the people who follow us that we care about to feel comfortable in our society and to express their own ideas and emotions uh, to greater aid in the expansion of our society and culture. So please, I encourage you to promote openness of gender, to promote subversive gender ideas, and to allow people to express how they want to express, because at the end of the day, it will benefit all of us. We can behave however we want to in regards to fitting into gender. Thank you, everyone, and I hope you all have a fantastic day and go perform your gender.